Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, let me welcome you to Riding Tiger with Arijit. And guess what? We are coming near to World Leaders Summit. That's going to happen in November 5th to 9th with multiple number of change makers and world leaders across 95 countries this year. And the number of speakers, guess what? We already crossed approximate 130 plus speakers for the next 5 days mega summit. But today's webinar is not about World Leader Summit only. Today I've got two amazing speakers with me, and those two great guys are actually from the future of medicine. So let me welcome Scott Tips and Jack, my friend. Scott Tips is the person who is president of National Health Federation and its sister foundation, the Foundation for Health Research. Scott is also the editor and chief of global NHF magazine publication, Health Freedom News. Welcome, Scott, to Riding Tiger, and welcome, Jack. Jack is one of the finest guy who is doing massive disruption with several number of business, and he's a serial entrepreneur. Welcome to Riding Tiger.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arijit. I appreciate being on your program.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
The beautiful thing about being on the program is that we actually started off December 18th last year.
Yep.
And it was spectacular. Scott, your representative last year, we had Greg Cunyon, whose father is the godfather, the actual father of nutrition-based medicine. Yes. So I'm being honored, ladies and gentlemen, I'm being honored to actually introduce Scott to you. And I really appreciate Arijit because I work so closely with Scott, and the responsibility when you analyze the idea of riding the tiger with Arijit, okay, in India, and where this goes globally. And we're here to get this audience to tune in to the Future of Medicine Conference and Doctors Forum, where we're going to introduce the National Health Federation on November 8th with a very serious 2-hour focus. Okay. Now, this opportunity is really Arijit delivering to his audience, which is substantial, the true realities of riding a tiger of global responsibility. The National Health Federation is the most powerful, most influential advocate for health freedom policies directly affecting 7 billion people on Earth.
Super.
If there was a world leader, if there's a world leader who cares about our human health freedoms and well-beings, from supplementation to agriculture to food, you're about to meet the global leader, Scott Tips.
Super. So let me
ask
Mr. Scott. Let me ask Mr. Scott about his detailed background, because I also read his entire bio. Oh my God, it's really, really massive work you have done. So why don't you share a little bit about your work and the kind of change that we are together going to bring in this world, which is going to probably help a lot of millions of people. Over to you, Mr. Scott.
Well, thank you for that, Arijit. It's kind of a big task, so I don't know quite where to begin other than to start a little bit at the beginning, which is with the National Health Federation. And I graduated from Berkeley School of Law, Bolt Hall. And when I did, a few years after that, I became a food and drug lawyer. I studied it. I learned under some other food and drug lawyers from the East Coast of the United States. And I was one of the first 2 food and drug lawyers west of the Mississippi. The other one coming from the FDA, going into private practice, and me starting out without that FDA influence. So I had more of a respect for nutrition and all of that. And I'd been kind of nutritionally oriented anyway. And I discovered this entity out there while I was practicing on behalf of various clients, you know, supplement companies and doctors, alternative doctors and the like. And it was called the National Health Federation. This was in the mid-1980s. And I learned more and more about it. In fact, the person who introduced me to it was a gentleman from Canada named Andrew McNaughton. Andrew McNaughton was a Canadian test pilot. He was the son of the commanding general of the Canadian Air Force. And at the time I knew him, he was, you know, like really old, like my age now. And he introduced me to the National Health Federation, and just one thing led to another. And I was super impressed with NHF because of all the different things it had done and was doing at the time and is still doing. And it's really advanced. Despite its name, National Health Federation, it really is international. It's just every Tom, Dick, and Harry is named the international this or the international that these days. So we never really bothered to change our name. But on the global stage, we are, as Jack already indicated, a force to be reckoned with, because we are the only health freedom organization that was accredited by Codex Alimentarius, sort of the global organization that sets food standards and guidelines for, as Jack pointed out, 7 billion people worldwide. And we really have been there for 20 plus years, 25 years actually, and we've been making a real difference at that meeting. I don't know if that answers your question, but it's perhaps a start.
Super, super. Of course, that answers a lot. Scott, I have, you know, a deep respect about the kind of work that you are doing. When we talk about nutrition and when we talk about human health, I believe that's one of the precious things that humankind can probably take forward. Talking about the same, if we look at the present situation of pandemic, and if we look at the human health, everyone, like a common person don't understand what is nutrition. A common person sometimes don't understand that before they go deep into the medical field or probably go through a medical process, maybe they can heal themselves utilizing a couple of nutrition-based food. And those foods or those alternative source of medicines can safeguard human life. Could you please comment on the same? Could you please enlighten us about how a normal person can probably be safe and uplift their own health?
Okay, well, actually, you know, a lot of this information will come out at the World Leader Summit. So this is just a taste of what you could learn at the World Leader Summit that's coming in early November. So, but let me say the most important thing I think that anyone out there can understand is the triage system of nutrition. If you understand this concept, then you pretty much immunize yourself against the mainstream media misinformation that's out there, and you'll do the right thing. So what is the triage system of nutrition? Well, imagine kind of a Roman fountain, you know, the kind that has a little fountain bowl at the top and then a slightly larger one in the middle, and then at the bottom it's a much bigger one. And you see the water come out the top and it fills the first bowl, and then it spills over and fills the second bowl, and then it spills over and fills the third bowl. Well, imagine that's your nutritional state, which it actually is. Your body has a triage system to decide. You have nutrient intake coming in every day. Sometimes it's a lot, or it's even optimal. Other times it's just minimal. So what does the body do? It takes, for that first bowl, if you aren't getting enough vitamin D, enough vitamin C, whatever, it takes it for whatever will keep you going to take your next step, you know, to take your next breath. It's worried about the immediacy of your nutritional needs. It's not worried about whether you'll get cancer in 20 years or 5 years or 6 years. It's worried about keeping you alive now, keeping your heart and lungs breathing and all of that. So that's where the nutrition goes to. And that's what mainstream is concerned about when scientists and doctors with very little nutritional knowledge, when they talk about getting adequate nutrition, they're talking about filling that first bowl. They don't really look at the big picture, like what's going to happen 5 years downstream, what's going to happen 20 years downstream if you don't get enough. So they're filling that first bowl and they're saying, hey, you're fine. 60 milligrams, 45 milligrams of vitamin C a day is adequate. And they walk away and after prescribing you a whole handful of prescription drugs. But if you look at it from an integrative approach, from sort of an orthomolecular approach, you realize that is not enough. You've got to put enough in that bowl that it spills over to the next level. And this is the level that kind of keeps you going for a year or so, you know, in reasonably good health. But you really need to take enough that you spill over that middle bowl and go into the lowest bowl. And that's where you get, and that's where you find optimal nutrition. And that's what helps prevent you from getting cancer downstream. If you keep that up throughout your life or as long as you possibly can, that will help keep you alive and in optimal health. And also it will have, you know, epigenetic effects as well. It will actually turn genetic genes, these switches, on or off, depending, you know, some genes need to be turned off to be in an optimal state and others need to be turned on and so on. So that's what this is all about. And when I go to the Codex meetings on behalf of the National Health Federation, that's what I'm trying to explain to a lot of these food engineers and bureaucrats who inhabit these meetings. And sometimes we have success. And I'm happy to say that the Indian delegation is one of the most enlightened nutritional delegations at the Codex meetings. One of the least enlightened are the Western European countries and North American countries. And of course, the absolute worst are the Australians and New Zealanders who wouldn't meet a good health standard if it hit them over the head and they got conked out by it. So this is what we do. And I would say this is the most important thing that people can understand is you have to do more than just the minimal amount if you want to maintain your health for the long run. Now, a lot of people are short-term thinkers. These are gamblers, heavy smokers, that kind of thing. And they don't think of the long term, they just think of the short term. So I'm really talking to the long-term thinkers who don't want to have to be on medication, who don't want to have to have a diabetic limb amputated later because their nutrition stank, or they listen to the doctors who have very little nutritional knowledge. And anyway, that's my advice for right now on that.
Super. You know what, for all the audience, whoever is listening, because I can see a lot of likes are actually increasing in our social media and I can see the number of views at the moment. But for every one of you, I do heavy workout. I usually go for heavy weightlifting and fighting. And a lot of us have
you look strong. I wouldn't want to meet you in a dark alley and have you be angry at me.
I never ever get angry. I never ever.
Okay.
So, you know what? Actually, martial art teach you how to be optimized. Rather, it's opposite. We never ever hit anyone. It's opposite always. But for all of you, a lot of you are probably taking calcium as a tablet. And when you take calcium overdose, sometimes weightlifters do that. You know, they take D3, 60 mg or more than that in a day. And sometimes they take more than that, 60K in a day, because they do heavy weightlifting. But if you don't compose K2 with that, it doesn't synthesize in your body. So there is a nutrition science. It's not about what you are gulping with the tablet with water. And this is what Mr. Tips and Jack are specialized in. This is what they are trying to do. They are trying to not shorten your lifespan, rather increasing it with a healthy way, so that
exactly.
you don't need
We are, yeah, I apologize, but I just want to add in there, you're so correct. It's not about just adding years on, where, you know, a lot of people think, oh, I'm adding years on to my life, but I'll be in a wheelchair, I'll be crippled, people have to take care of me, and I don't want that. I'd rather die earlier. But we aren't talking about that. If you take optimal nutrition along the way, you'll end up being just like you are now, maybe a little reduced in strength or energy, but not that much actually. And we know a lot of people this way who are in their 90s, mid 90s, and they're not frail at all because they've been taking care of their health all along. It's like a big cruise ship. You don't turn it on a dime when you want to change it. You just get it headed in its right way, and you try to keep it that way, and then you don't have to at the last minute, you know, suddenly try to change direction and be healthier. No, you're already headed that way. Sorry. Anyway, go ahead.
perfect. It's perfect.
I couldn't resist.
It's a lot more of these kind of details are going to come in actually in World Leader Summit. I really don't want to break that particular details in a small podcast talk show. But yeah, we will be exploring a little bit depth about the gentleman who has been disrupting the entire history, of course, Jack and Scott both. So I'll be asking a couple of very simple questions to Scott and Jack. So the same question will go to Jack. Scott, if I ask you to define happiness, what is happiness for you? What makes you happy?
Well, that's quite a philosophical question. It reminds me of the joke that was told about Charles de Gaulle and his wife at his retirement press conference. And maybe I shouldn't say it on here, but anyway, it's a little bit off color, but some of the people out there will know. They can Google it, Charles de Gaulle's last conference and what his wife said about happiness with a French accent. The thing about happiness is that it's different things for different people, but I mean, there does seem to be a commonality. And I think the commonality, at least from my view, is really freedom, you know, and control over your own person. And that's really what is most likely to lead to happiness. Now, there's some people who want to be told what to do. That's not NHF members, I can tell you that for sure. They don't want to be told what to do. They don't want to tell others what to do. They just want to be left alone to live their lives the way they seem fit. Will they make mistakes? Of course they'll make mistakes, but it's their mistake to make. And actually, if you let people do that, they're less likely to make mistakes than if you centralize it in a decision made by one person at the head of hundreds of millions of people who can, you know, maybe he'll make the country or she'll make the country better for everyone, but more likely than not, because there's a failure of feedback mechanism there, a feedback loop to get, you know, decisions back to them, they will not make the correct decision. Almost always they will make the wrong decision because they lack the feedback mechanism to tell them whether they're making good decisions or bad decisions. That's part of the problem of government. But in my view, happiness is being left alone, and for me to do with my life what I want, just so long as I respect the equal right of others, you know, to do the same. And that's really the philosophy of NHF. It's kind of the golden rule, frankly, but it's a little bit more involved in the wording than the golden rule, which is much more simple, which is much simpler. But I would say that is it. And then within that umbrella of freedom, then people are free to choose what makes them happy. Is it going to a movie with a dear friend or a lover or whatever, or is it just staying at home, or is it dancing? Who knows? It's different for everyone. But that is my final answer.
Freedom.
What makes you happy, Jack? The same question to you.
I'll tell you what makes me happy. I got to touch on 3 points, but I'm going to touch on points that come right from this meeting for our audience. Freedom is what makes me happy. And Scott Tips just hit it out of the park. We are born with inalienable rights to be free, to care, to protect, to love. And it seems like man's inhumanity throughout the generations is focused on diminishing that. I can't put my finger on it because nothing in the world that I've traveled and lived in as a Romanian American, the whole communism thing, the whole tyranny thing, the whole socialist movement in America, as ludicrous as that is, where's the happiness in it? Okay, happiness is found in it every day if you're open to education, to learn what has been prevented from being shared with you. Control, control, control prevents your freedom to exercise the integrities of your ability to learn. Now, you brought up something quite interesting in the first few moments of our show here, Arijit, which I love you for it. You talked about, like hepatitis, right? Well, I'm the son of a funeral director. And at the end of the day, that's not a happy time. But in some cultures, it's a very happy time because you've made the full transition into your life, into the next life, the heavenly existence, so to speak. Okay. So here we have an educational opportunity for our audience that I can share with them that delivers the future of medicine to them. But they have to pick up the gauntlet to go out and to study and to learn. If you guys should all be on with Arijit on November 8th and 9th for the conference, as Scott referenced. But here, diabetes. In the world of mainstream medicine, they manage your diabetes till it kills you. In nutrition-based medicine, orthomolecular medicine, and you got to be a funeral director because I've seen it for 50 years. I just had my 75th birthday yesterday. And at the end of the day, I'll tell you what, this past week, I've been able to share this knowledge with a lot of people. In nutrition-based medicine, we don't manage diabetes, we cure it. In degenerative diseases like cancer, we don't manage the cancer and it goes and comes and goes and comes. Wonderful thing about the funeral home these days is that as soon as someone gets cancer, if they stick without nutrition in mainstream medicine, they're going to be in remission next year or 2 years, and then it's going to come back, it's going to be in remission next year. Okay. My brother Jimmy, thank you, Lord, has stage 4 cancer in his neck. No chemotherapy, nothing but nutrition, 6 months, complete remission, but he's been in remission for 9 years. His wife died of the same cancer. My sister-in-law died with the exact same cancer. They cured it 3 times, $650,000. 3.5 years later, 4 years later, she dies of the cancer. Nutrition is the future of medicine because we're proving right now with COVID, you don't get high dose intravenous vitamin C during your ICU experience fighting COVID. Odds are really good, you're not going to live. You get the high dose intravenous vitamin C, or if you're fortunate enough upon the symptoms, the very symptoms of COVID, 150,000 milligrams vitamin D3, 150,000 milligrams vitamin A, retinol, 6,000 milligrams of vitamin C, 3 days. It's over. It's gone. You win the war. You might be uncomfortable for 4, 5, 6 days, but after that 3-day therapy, very hard to not turn COVID into a common cold, a very common flu experience. So what makes me happy is educating people who don't know that their destiny to health and well-being and their children lies in their ability to supply the nutrition the body needs, as Scott put so elegantly, to maintain the integrities for the short term, the immediate, got to keep my body functioning. For the midterm, let's feed the whole body. To the long term, let's prevent disease. Let's prevent illness. And it's really easy to do. And when you do the research, India and its sister country, China, have been leading in the world in these regards for the last
Jack, we will actually explore all these opportunities in the summit itself. But yes. I'm going to ask Mr. Tips another question, which is probably a little bit of philosophical, but I love to do that because it actually explores a lot of things for lots many people. You know what? I have seen two of you. I have seen probably 4 or 5 of your group members are always willing to give back to the community, to the world, rather than like others who are always in the process of making money. I've seen that you guys are more on giving without any cause, without expectation. So coming back to the point, the last question to you, if I give you a situation that you are in a park, it's an empty park and there is a bench, I want to sit down with somebody and probably talk hours and hours, discuss your whole life or probably a lot of things. Who that would be? Whom do you like to sit with in an empty park to talk, discuss, and explore probably life, nature, and love?
Is this a trick question, Arijit?
No, this is what,
is
to
like,
be very honest, this is what, to be very
something,
honest, I ask a lot of tiger riders. So let me explain why I keep it as a name as tiger.
Oh no, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. You don't have to explain anything at all. It's an interesting question. The problem is there are probably a number of people to talk with on that bench. Probably though, the person I would most want to talk with may sound very, very strange to you, because I could pick, Albert Einstein or who knows, someone out there. Nikola Tesla would be interesting. Ludwig von Mises would be another one. And I actually did meet Ludwig von Mises when I was 18 years old, and I did talk to him. So that already has happened, but not on a park bench. So Murray Rothbard would be one, but I did the same with him in his home in California once. Most likely it would probably be my father and grandfather. If I could pick one or the other, they're about equal. And because I lost my father when I was quite young, and my grandfather when I was even younger, my mother's father, and they were both interesting individuals, and there are questions that I kick myself now for not having asked them when they were alive. So I would say it'd be my father maybe first, or my grandfather maybe first, one or the other. And if I had a second choice, it'd be the other one. So amazing. I guess that would be the answer.
Jack, what about you? How about you?
When you're as old as I am, and you're on the park bench of life, and you have so much to share with people, because the older you get, two things happen. You either become wise like a sponge to enhance the human condition, or you become wise like a sponge and you don't enhance the human condition. You didn't use your life to grow. Okay, and you were self-indulgent. Okay, so here I am on a park bench right this minute, and somehow I got put in the middle of this park bench. And here I've got one of the most important men in the world who will deliver and protect our freedoms, our freedom to nutrition, our freedom to health, our freedom to medical choice. There is literally not another agency on the face of the earth that handles these protections for 7 billion people on earth. So on the park bench, there's Arijit. Excuse me, Arijit. All three of the people on this park bench are very common people. Believe me, average middle-class Americans, Indians, you know, and so what are you doing at the top of this heap of humanity fighting for our educations, our opportunities to grow, Arijit, sharing? I am quoted as, you know, the merging of culture delivers the greatest prosperity on the face of the earth. The merging of culture is the cornerstone to all education. So now this bench we're on, I see hundreds, if not thousands of people sitting on this bench at this moment in my life. And I'm going to look at every one of you right in the eye right now, and I'm going to share a miracle with you. You show up with Arijit riding his tiger on the 8th and 9th of this coming month to appreciate the in-depth impact and values of the National Health Federation to protect the rights of our children and families and corporations to produce the finest tools on earth to guarantee and maintain our freedoms, our health, and our prosperity. That's Scott Tips. That's Arijit in a different application, opening the door so you can be educated and you could get to meet Scott Tips. I'm the most average guy here. I'm the global communicator that established FM radio in Cleveland, Ohio, the rock and roll capital of the world. And I never looked back because that cross-cultural exchange brought the poorest countries on earth in the last 50 years expendable income ratios. Now, I beg everyone here who sits on this bench with me today with Arijit, riding the tiger of our lives into our future, and I say, go to the National Health Federation, www.thenhf.org, and become a member. You are the only army on the face of the earth that fights and protects our rights to freedom and health choice. There is no other, and Arijit brings us to you because he loves you as we do. And God brought us together for this purpose. Well, that's it.
Simple.
So, and tomorrow, hey, hold on, Arijit. Don't forget, tomorrow, we have Greg Cunyon in this 3-series, Ride the Tiger 3-show series, and Dr. Gonzalez on Saturday. Holy cow. Holy cow. There's nobody in the world like you, Arijit.
Thank you so much, Jack. And the kudos and all the Catalyst award goes to you, Jack. It's not me.
Yes.
I'm just a facilitator in between this mortal world, trying to bring all the great guys together to bring the change and tell the world, you know what, this is a beautiful world. You don't need to worry, you don't need to panic, you don't need to fight, relax. It's a mortal world. There are nature to protect you. There are people to love you. There are people like Scott, people like Jack, people like Dr. Queenan, who can actually help you to become healthier and have a peaceful life. With this note, with this tone, I look forward to meet all of you tomorrow, same time, same place. Stay tuned. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for all the comments. Thank you for commenting for UK. I can't take all of your comments. I'm so sorry about this. It's about 12 different comments that actually came. But yes, we will take all your questions, all your comments in November 2021, 5th to 9th 8th and 9th, wait for National Health Federation to come and talk and discuss. We will explore everything with all of you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Arijit. Thank you.